The Task of Ezrok. This is a fantasy solitaire game that you can purchase at gamecrafter.com. This is a website that allows designers to publish their games independently. As I understand, they submit the design and then the Game Crafter makes the physical copy. If you purchase the game from them, they will send you a large box, at least that's what they sent to me, a very large box and made of a completely flimsy material, completely useless. I threw it out because there was no way the box was going to survive any sort of pressure or usage anyways. And the size of the box is ridiculous because the game consists of this deck of cards, a small bag of dice with a pawn in it, and a single sheet of rules. So as you can see, this is also very simple game. Rules are very short. The Task of Ezrok, solitaire fantasy game in which you, the player, will play the role of Ezrok and his friends and his party of heroes. These heroes are traveling through a fantasy land, and what they're trying to do is to carry the Chest of Seth, which is an artifact of unspeakable evil. They're trying to carry it to the Eternal Chasm, to toss it down the chasm and get rid of it forever. Kind of reminds me of a certain fantasy story I've read a long time ago. There were rings involved. I also think I saw a movie at some point. But who cares? There aren't many fantasy plots available out there after all. It is always about finding a treasure, capturing the evil wizard, defeating the monster. The variant of getting rid of something is a variant that is less common. But again, it's not that we play fantasy games because we want to be shocked by an incredibly new plot. We want to see a certain narrative that we enjoy for what it is and for the theme. In any case, let me show you how the Task of Ezrok tells you the story of Ezrok and his journey to get rid of the Chest of Seth. There are several stats that you use in the game, and you use this card here to keep track of them: mental fortitude, group health, number of men, and special resources. During setup, you take the yellow die that comes with the game and you place it on the special resources space showing the one side. Then you get the other dice that come with the game and you roll them. This is the only die roll that you will perform during the game. After that, the dice are simply used to keep track of the level of your stats. And as you can imagine, this die roll is extremely important because there is no way for you to change the numbers that you roll, and you may start with very low stats, which means you're pretty much doomed from start. You may have good numbers to start with, high numbers, then you have better chances of winning the game. But there's no choice here for you and no way of organizing resources in any form of way. The die roll determines that. Then you're ready to start the game. You take the pawn that indicates the position of your party on the board, and you start drawing cards from this deck here. These are location cards. Each card represents a location that your party is traveling, and you're trying to reach the Eternal Chasm, which is this card here. And this card is going to be in the 10th row moving upwards. That means that you will travel from card to card following the direction of the arrows. When there are multiple arrows where you can travel, you choose your destination, flip a card, move to the destination, resolve the effect, flip a card, move to the destination, resolve the effect. When you have 3 cards in a row, then you're allowed to move to the next row. You still keep drawing cards from the same deck, from the same tier deck. When you have 3 rows in a tier, for example from tier 1, then you still follow the same restrictions. You need 3 cards in a row to move to the next row, but then you start exploring tier 2. Same idea, you need to explore 3 rows from tier 2, then you can move to tier 3, you explore 3 rows from there, again 3 cards per row, and if you're able to move from the 3rd row of tier 3, if you're able to move north, then you automatically get this card, and you reach the Eternal Chasm, where you can toss the Chest of Seth down to the bottom of the earth. So you have purged the world from this incredibly evil artifact. As I said, the idea is you move your pawn following the arrows, you resolve the effect, and you see what happens. For example, here on my standing card, I subtract 1 point from mental fortitude. It is that simple. I just lost a point of mental fortitude. Then I cannot travel there because I don't have 3 cards in this row yet. I cannot travel here because it makes no sense. I'm trying to go in that direction. Then I have to travel here. This card is subtract 1 point from mental fortitude. I keep traveling. I still have to go there. That cannot go there yet. Toxic Haze, subtract 1 point from group health. Now I can move in that direction. Yay! So we do that. Swamp Rash, subtract 1 point from general health. I mean group health. General health kind of like describes it anyways. I have to move in that direction. Cannot move there yet. Swamp, nothing happens, but if there are 3 thick swamp cards consecutively drawn and laid in the same row, then I regain some group health, because notoriously there is no healthier place to hang out than a thick swamp. See, now I cannot, even if I have 3 cards, I could not move north from there. As you can see, sometimes it takes some space, it takes some room to play this game. Again, now I have 3 cards, and I could, for example, choose to go back here and explore more, or I could choose to keep moving in that direction to get the 3 thick swamp cards, and so on and so forth. This is pretty much how it works. You keep moving, sometimes you will recover resources, sometimes, many times actually, you will lose resources. And what happens when your resources run out, when you go down to 0? Well, mental fortitude. There is a reminder card that you place in front of you when your mental fortitude goes down to 0. When that happens, the group health will be reduced at the rate of 1 point per turn. What happens if that rounds out too? Well, if you don't have group health left, then you have a reminder card that tells you that the number of men now is reduced at the rate of 1 point per turn. And if you are out of men too, which I assume means that now Ezrok is all alone, then any card requiring the loss of M points, of man points, that is, loss of men, must be deducted from the resources. If you run out of resources too, you lose the game. This is pretty much how it works. You manage to travel through 9 rows and to reach the Eternal Chasm, you win the game. You lose your resources entirely, you go down to 0 special resources, then you lose the game. This is a game that I did not enjoy. It is that simple. To me, it barely felt like a game. The number of decisions that I could make was so limited. I felt that those decisions were barely relevant. In most cases, they really were not. I didn't feel that I was playing the game, that I was in control of the narrative, by which I should say that I was constructing a narrative by interacting with the game mechanics and the game components. I felt that the game was playing itself through me, that I was watching the game play itself. Flip a card, resolve the effects, flip a card, resolve the effects, flip a card, resolve the effects, lower your stats. Occasionally your stats will go up, then they will go down again. And that is pretty much it. Yes, there are cases in which certain cards will challenge you, for example, to stay in a certain area for longer, then you would get certain benefits, but that is not enough. That was not enough for me at all to change the overall feel of the game, which was that I wasn't really part of the game. I didn't feel involved, I didn't feel excited about the game. I lost every game that I played, which usually is good. Usually I like the challenge of a hard game, but the point is, again, I didn't really feel that I was losing the game. I don't feel that this is a hard game to win. I feel that this is a game that will be rarely won because of the way in which the cards will direct the story. You want to win very often, but I just really didn't care much because I didn't care much about the story. The art didn't help all that much in creating a strong theme because some cards have very nice art, but the art is completely unpredictable, discontinuous. In some cases, you have you have those simple text in large blocky font, very bright colors. That really doesn't go well at all with fantasy illustrations. Even if the theme had been delivered through amazing art and texts of incredible narrative quality, still this would not have felt much like a game to me. Still, it would have felt more like a narrative engine. The designer has a section in the rule sheet about strategy notes, and pretty much the only thing that is recommended here, well, the only dilemma that you're presented with is to choose when to advance and when to stay in a certain area to try to collect resources and to collect benefits before you advance. And then you start losing more resources because, of course, the farther you go, the more resources you will lose for each card that you flip. But again, that wasn't enough to me to make the game feel interactive, to make me involved in the narrative. So, bottom line, this is a game that just does not have enough player decisions, at least for my taste. It doesn't construct all that much of a story, and even if it did, then if I cannot take a major role in my interaction with the game in creating the story, then I prefer to read a book. If I'm just going to be told a story by something, by an artifact, by something has been created by human creativity, then I watch a movie, then I read a book. If what you're looking for is a narrative engine, something that tells you a story without really giving you too many options, too many decisions, if you just want to read a story that will change from game to game depending on the order in which you do the cards, then the Task of Ezrok is going to be right for you. By all means, go ahead and get your copy. It is just not for me. It is not what I'm looking for when I want to play a fantasy game.